All right, today on TDSP, I got Meghan Angley of DNVR Avalanche with me. She's straight from the NHL Draft. We're going to talk about everything you need to know about the Avalanche draft picks and what was it like to be at the Vegas Sphere for the NHL Draft. All that coming up on TDSP. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another TDSP. I'm Harrison Wind. On today's show, I got Meghan Angley from DNVR Avalanche with me, who's straight from the NHL Draft, straight from Vegas. She went to the Sphere, she experienced it, and I want to hear all about it. So thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a really fun weekend in Vegas. It kicked off with the NHL Awards, and the Avs had decent representation there. Cale Makar was nominated for another Norris, and Nathan MacKinnon cleaned house and won the Hart Trophy and the I almost said Lady Bang, and the Ted Lindsay Award for the MVP as voted by the players, which was also a really cool honor.
So that's really cool. So everything with the NHL was last weekend in Vegas. The draft, the award show.
Free agency opened right on Monday, and there were some GMs that just stayed in Vegas to continue working.
Vegas is where everybody goes during the summer. Like, it's the hottest place you could possibly go, but there's hotels and like everybody loves Vegas. Like the NBA is taking everybody to Vegas next week for summer league.
That's what it is. Because I was talking to one of the Uber drivers, and they were talking about all the sporting things that are just going on back to back in that city.
You got the Olympic team, the men's basketball team going to Vegas. I think now for like Team USA stuff, NHL there. Everybody loves Vegas in July.
I can't imagine what it is about Vegas that they like, but
a lot of hotels. Lot of space, a lot of restaurants, a lot of stuff to do, and cheap to get to.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
cheap
accessible.
Flight from most places. But yeah. I want to hear about the draft and all the goalies the Avs took, and
I'm glad.
Also what it was like to be at the Sphere. You started with Nathan MacKinnon winning the Hart Trophy, though, and Cale Makar taking home some hardware, too. Nate MacKinnon wins MVP. That was pretty expected, right?
Yeah.
But what was that like to see him get that award?
Because he'd been on the doorstep of that award so many times before, it wasn't totally a guarantee, especially with the years that Nikita Kucherov and Connor McDavid had. I think it makes it more special for MacKinnon, though, that he wins it in a year that was just so impressive from a few of these players that were also up for the award. And then to take home the essential MVP of the league as voted by the players, too, it's like he has the respect of media who votes for the Hart Trophy, as well as his fellow players who votes for the Ted Lindsay. I think it just made it doubly special for, in his fourth time being nominated for it, finally getting to bring it home. Because he's had excellent seasons where he's been in those conversations before, but he gets injured and he misses time, and the point production just does not compete with Connor McDavid. And he acknowledged as much himself that there have been years he's been nominated for it that he felt it was the best chance he had until this year, and other years where he didn't feel as qualified to be in that conversation because guys like Connor McDavid just rightfully deserved it more.
Right.
So I think there was a sense of confidence that this was the year he could finally put this to bed a little bit.
Yeah, get the monkey off his back a little bit.
100%. Because you talk to him in season, and he'll tell you that this isn't something he's that concerned about.
Yeah, he pulls a Jokic. Yeah.
To see him holding the trophy or standing beside the real one that's actually very large, you can tell it does mean a lot to him. And it's just a very different MacKinnon you're getting in the offseason. He's a lot more relaxed. He's a lot more willing to talk about things like that home point streak earlier this year at Ball Arena. Again, if you asked him in season, he wouldn't want to talk much about it, but he admitted to being kind of superstitious during this time and said that he did a lot of really weird things like not washing his car. So getting to see that side of MacKinnon And seeing him finally claim this trophy he's been on the doorstep of for so long, it felt really good, even though the end of the season was a little disappointing. It just points to this direction that the core is headed in. Also having Cale Makar there up for yet another Norris. It's just so encouraging to see the direction of this team. You know, he was talking too in his media availability about how close this Avs group is. And that's what made it so disappointing. They felt like they could win it all. They still feel that way. And you look at them clean house at the awards, and it just points to a lot of reason to be happy as an Avs fan right now.
But so he didn't clean his car? Was that a superstitious thing during the home point streak?
It's very Sidney Crosby of him. You would never get him to admit it, but it sounds like he was not running his car through the Rosh, and that is just the tip of the iceberg, I feel. That's all he'd admit to, but I imagine it got so much deeper than that.
Probably like wore the same
clothes or so. I don't even want to know, right?
Yeah, that's funny. MacKinnon and Jokic seem pretty similar in some of the things you were talking about in terms of like they don't want to talk about MVP at all. They don't want to talk about like their individual stuff at all during the season. Like it's almost awkward if you ask them about it because you know they don't want to talk about it.
Oh, 100%.
They're such machines. Like they're such day-to-day machines during the season. Then the off season, they relax a little bit.
It was good to see him in that environment.
Yeah. So you have the MVP, the Hart voted on by the media, and then you have the one voted on by the players. Which is more prestigious, the Hart that's voted on by the media?
I think for some reason the Hart is more memorable when we talk about trophies, but to the player, I think Ted Lindsay means more because they're voting on it himself or themselves. Like Nathan MacKinnon talked about having voted for that award in the past, and it's something he's very thoughtful about. He also will nominate Cale Makar for that almost year after year, which is pretty funny.
That's cool. So he takes home both of those. And then what awards did Cale Makar win?
He didn't win. He ended up just a finalist for the Norris this last year. But, you know, he already has a Norris to his name and continues to be a finalist year after year. This was considered a down year for Cale Makar, but he still exceeded a career points in high. So a career high in points. So to see him end up a Norris nominee on the end of what was a bad year is still pretty impressive for Cale Makar.
Why was it considered a down year for him? Did it have something to do with just like the team success?
It felt like, honestly, he was getting used to a new normal with an injury. I don't want to suggest he was battling through the injury throughout the whole regular season, but he certainly started with one.
Yeah.
And
when you start the year with an injury, that can mess up your whole season, you know?
100%. Because in talking with him about it, it felt like something he'd been dealing with for a while that was lingering, and he just needed to get used to it at that point. Like, it's not something he can get a surgery on. It's just kind of how his body is now, and I think he just had to get used to feeling a little different. And then, as always, he remains one of the highest ice time players at the end of the year.
Right.
That his workload's just pretty heavy and pretty high. So that was true of this last season too.
Yeah. So that was cool. You get the awards. Was it like an award show, like a dinner type thing? Like, well, take me inside and the event. Yeah. What was it like?
There's a red carpet at the very beginning. They changed the rules a little bit, so we didn't get to interview players. I think this was for the best because they do a media availability after for the winner, so you still get to talk to them. So they got to kind of run on through.
They don't do like a red carpet, like Emmys, Grammys style interview anymore?
I think the players must have vetoed it after last year. It was just too much talking. So they got kind of a pass on that. But then the actual awards ceremony, there's a little bit of entertainment in between. Like, I wasn't totally following who all performed. I know that they had the Loud Luxury, that DJ group, and then they had a comedian host it. They're Canadian.
Probably not Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart.
He does host everything, though. Probably not the NHL awards, I'm guessing.
It was a new guy that had done it. So he was doing some emceeing and some jokes, and they brought out one of the actors from Stranger Things.
Zendaya?
I wish Zendaya was there. That would have changed the NHL awards.
She's the only one I know from that.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
I wish Zendaya was.
What about? Oh, I'm thinking of Euphoria.
Euphoria would be.
My bad.
That's so funny. I wish someone
who's
from
on,
before
who's
was
on Stranger
there.
Things?
Millie Bobby Brown is probably who you're thinking of.
She's the main girl from it.
Gotcha. Okay.
It doesn't matter. It was actually a pretty tight programming. I appreciated it. They were pretty to the schedule, but it was really nice. This was inside Fontainebleau, which is I think a newer
new hotel, right?
Yeah,
that's
I think
like
it's
losing
a newer
ton of money.
hotel.
That's the only thing I've seen about it.
I hope not. There were weirdly egg themes in the art inside of it, so maybe it was the commitment to the egg theme that really did them in. Beautiful venue otherwise, though.
Isn't Fontainebleau like that new one that they were building for 10 years or something?
Yeah, it got halted halfway through, and then another company came in to finish it.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be the nicest hotel in the world.
It's supposed to
really
be,
beautiful. The chandeliers reminded me of what's in the Cosmopolitan.
Oh, the chandelier bar.
It reminded me of that almost all throughout the hotel.
The chandelier bar at the Cosmo for Summer League is every NBA executive's favorite bar.
That surprises me. It's a very girly bar.
Yeah, chandelier bar. Yeah. Tim Connolly, you'll find him at the chandelier bar.
They have good taste.
Yeah.
Now I want to know who goes to the Vanderpump bar. That's who I would trust to manage my team.
Is that at Fontainebleau?
No, I forget which hotel it's in, actually. I feel like it could also be the Cosmo, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, well, that's cool. So, MacKinnon, Makar, good nights at the NHL Awards show. Anything else notable from that part of the weekend in the lead up to the draft?
No. Things really kicked off quickly after that.
Okay. All right, so then the draft. Let's talk about the Sphere first of all.
Okay. It's incredible.
Before we get to the draft, and Cale, you were there, so feel free to chime in as well. What was it like being at the Sphere? Because I've never been there. I've seen, of course, all the footage that comes out of there from the concerts, all the Grateful Dead shows that have been there, or sorry, all the Dead and Company shows that have been there recently, the concerts that have been there, over the last year or so. What were some of your first impressions walking into the Sphere for the NHL Draft?
A little bit of heartache because it's the last centralized draft, and this location is perfect to host the draft every year.
Yeah.
There is something so special about the presentation. You could tell they put a lot of effort into it. Upon walking in, they have this grid of all the players in the draft. And it's not just a still headshot. It's a little bit of them moving.
Yeah.
And then they have these player profiles rolling, and they're showing highlights on this huge screen. And it just felt like such a more interactive environment to host the draft. And even the little details, when each team was on the clock, they would adjust the city skyline to match that team's more closely and have little nods to special things about the team. All the small things plays when the Avs are on the clock to make their picks. And it just visually was so impressive. I can't even put into words. And everyone that was there is trying different camera angles to fully capture how cool it is, and nothing did it justice versus just being there and seeing it in person. It's massive. It's just so cool.
Yo, Cale, bring up the one where it has all the teams. I want to get to that one in a sec. Bring up the one that has all the teams. And then yeah. So this is what you're talking about with all the different logos and stuff.
It was like a little snow globe in there. And they had different visuals too, like ice cracking, and it would change to a different thing. And that's when you would have the player photos, headshots, and from, I'm guessing, the combine, and their little heads are, there it is.
That's insane.
I thought that was such a nice touch. I just can imagine how special it felt to be a player in this draft and having your face up there for all the league to see.
Yeah.
It's kind of the whole point of why it's special to have the draft there in front of everybody, not just all the league staff, but all your peers too, and then all of the league media. It's just pretty special for the players, I think, to have this be the last draft.
Cale, go to this article, 10 mind-bending photos and videos from the Sphere. Let's hit a break first, and then we'll go to that. There's some really cool ones in there. Guys, at Bet365, check out Bet365. Never ordinary. You can hit that QR code right there on the screen. Sign up for Bet365. And you can choose between 2 offers. A bet and get offer. Place a bet of $5 or more. Get $150 in bonus bets. Or a first bet safety net offer. Place a bet up to $1,000. If your qualifying bet loses, you get a match refund in bonus bets. Tons to bet on this summer with the Olympics coming up. Can't wait for Team USA versus Serbia, Slovenia, whoever's playing. Can't wait to bet on that stuff with Bet365. That's what we use to bet here at DNVR. You can download the Bet365 app. You can use that QR code right there on the screen. Download it wherever you download your apps. And use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Also, check out Factor meal kits. Look, if you work a lot, got a lot going on in your life, you don't have time to cook, Factor meal kits, it's an awesome option. First off, they taste really good. They don't taste like, your regular pre-made, frozen or refrigerated meal. These are gourmet meals, and there's 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every single week with Factor. You always have new flavors to explore. If you're on a specific diet, if you're trying to eat healthy, Factor Meals is perfect for that kind of stuff. They have options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. You store them in your fridge, pop them in the microwave, 2 minutes, they're good to go. So go to factormeals.com/DNVR50, factormeals.com/DNVR50. You can get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. So 50% off your first box, 20% off your next month with the code DNVR50. That's at factormeals.com with the code DNVR50. So many different options, 35 different meals, more than 60 add-ons to choose from, and they taste good. I've had Factor Meals before. I can stand by it. So factormeals.com/DNVR50. All right, back here on TDSP, Harrison Wind, I got Meghan Angley with me. Let's check out the Sphere some more. I found this article, 10 mind-bending photos and videos of the Las Vegas Sphere hosting the NHL Draft. That looks like just like a general screen. But you can kind of see the size and scale of it. And then this next one with all the different players. We saw that. Could you get the screen is just what is the screen like? Because it's like in front of you, but then it's partly the roof too.
Right, it's all consuming, and so like where media was seated was on the floor level, so there was a little worry of neck strain because you do kind of have to look up to see the full thing.
Right.
But most everything you needed to see was a straight eye line ahead of you. But there's something everywhere.
So this is like when a guy gets drafted, they throw his name up there and his face up there like that.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. There would be little highlights from wherever they just played their last season, particularly inside the first round. Yeah. Each of these players got that kind of
What's also
fanfare.
So unique about the NHL Draft, which I love, and which seems crazy to me that they're not making it this like centralized event again, is that like the whole team is there at a table. And like you can see guys picking up the phone.
Yes.
You can see guys talking with one another. Like I remember when the Avs were on the clock and I was just scrolling the timeline. Everybody was like, "Oh, Chris McFarland just been on the phone for 15 minutes straight. Yeah. Something's happening here." That is just such a cool aspect. Like every team is at a table just talking through the draft as it's going on. Like that's so cool to me.
It is really cool. I think it's special for the player, too, to be able to shake the hands of everybody involved with that decision.
And then you get drafted and you walk up and you put on the jersey.
Exactly, in front of all the league staff to see, because you never know where your career is going to end up taking you, and I think it's cool to have that moment. And I did think it was funny with the Avs trade. You could see it coming because of that, because of the time that they were taking before they made their pick and the phone call.
So let's get to the Avs picks. The storyline, I feel like, is the Avs drafted 3 goalies.
Yes.
They made, I'm looking at it right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 picks total. Is that correct?
I think it's 9.
There were 7 rounds. I mean, it's a long draft, like 7 rounds like the NHL draft, but they took 3 goalies. Was that top headline from the draft?
It was, because of their first 4 picks, 3 were goaltenders.
It was crazy.
Well, and so they make this trade, and they had the first pick that they've had in a long while, since I want to say Byram Newhook. And they trade then that first overall pick, not overall, but first round pick, one of the highest.
Were they picking at like 20-something?
24. And it was, again, still one of the first they've had in a long while, though. To include last year, where they still picked inside the first round, but it was a little bit lower. So they trade out and they get 3 picks in return, 2 of which come in this draft. So it adds to the overall total of picks they get this year, and then another one coming in next year's draft. And so with that, they earn the 38th pick. That's into the next round. And that's where they make their first selection. And they're the first team to select a goaltender. And there was a lot of reaction when this happened, because this is a goaltender that, was highly coveted in the draft, just not enough to take in the first round. But for teams that were keen to add a goalie to their pipeline, this was the goalie that they wanted.
Do goalies typically go in the first round if it's like a really good goalie?
No.
That seems so weird to me, because goalie is such an important position.
It's such a hard to predict position. And at this age, like the goaltending trajectory, we joke about it in goaltending years where somebody is at. And it's because it's so hard to predict, and it takes so much time to really see their potential. And that comes into ages 22, 23, where you really start to see what you have in them. Other than that, there have been excellent goaltenders that have become full-time NHL starters that have been buried in 5th or 6th rounds.
So it's just really hard to predict.
100%. And that's what makes Nabokov, the goalie that they ended up taking, a little interesting. He's older among the players, and he's already playing in professional hockey overseas in the KHL. And so it added color to his draft profile. Like, they actually have a little bit more idea of where this goaltender is at, because he's a little bit older and playing in a men's league already. So with 1 more year on his KHL contract, there's expectation that this is somebody that would come over and be an impact, likely for like the Eagles part of the pipeline, but for the Avs organization sooner rather than later. Whereas most of these goaltenders in this draft that are like at draft age are probably not looking at coming over until 4 to 5 years, in that range.
Oh, wow. Okay. But the Avs, we were talking about this earlier, they needed to get goalies in their pipeline, it seemed like.
They did. They haven't hit on some of the last picks, and they haven't also just added much depth to their goaltending. But the last goaltender they took a swing on was a late round pick in Ivan Zhigalov, and he just struggled to find a net.
Zhigalov? That's an incredible name.
He looked like baby Joe Sakic. It was very interesting at the time, but it just didn't quite work out. And so their goalie pipeline, after Justus Annunen, who's projected to be with the Avs next season.
Oh, right. He was like the 3rd string guy.
He was, and because he's young. And so he's in that goalie timeline of being, I want to say now just 23 years old. Finally getting that opportunity. And so the guy coming up behind him is Trent Miner, and then after that, that's kind of it for their goaltending depth. So
they needed to stock up a little bit.
Especially to have some internal options, because they always, get a guy one way or another, but it's usually kind of an aging veteran goaltender. So I think they wanted to have some youth and some internal options for down the line.
And also, you said it's really tough to predict, so maybe you just grab 3 and you're like...
Yes.
Maybe one works out?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And this is kind of a new thing they're building into, but their former GM of the Eagles, Craig Billington, moved roles in the last year and is starting a goalie department. And it's going to emphasize scouting goaltenders so that they can have internal options. And so they are beginning to scout really young goaltenders and build into that staff to hopefully develop their own goaltenders one day.
Gotcha. All right, so they take Nabokov in the second round, first goalie. Then they take William Zellers, left winger, and then Jake Fisher, a center. What do you think of those picks?
One of them is a freshman at DU, so I'm really excited about Jake Fisher.
That's cool.
There's actually 2 DU kids that the Avs picked, which is really fun. And then Will Zellers, he is an interesting prospect. He is slated to go to the University of North Dakota after one more year in the USHL and really idolizes Zach Parise. And Parise, though it was a short stint with the Avs this last year, was such a respected leader in the room. I think that it's exciting to hear such a young player really idolize that type of guy. And you want to see him build those types of habits into his game to see success one day. DevCamp actually started today, but he is unfortunately injured, so we won't really get to lay eyes on Will Zellers, but his profile is intriguing, and I'm excited to see what he does because his path to the pros is going to be a long one because he's going to the USHL, then he's going to college, probably spends at least 2 seasons there before we're looking at him even coming to the American Hockey League.
I don't think I realized how far off a lot of the prospects that get taken in the NHL draft are. It seems kind of similar to baseball,
projection.
Where like you take a guy, and unless he's like a Bryce Harper or like a Steven Strasburg, they're going to have to go through, single A, double A, triple A until they get to the majors. I don't think I realized that the NHL draft, there's so much projection that goes into it.
It's such a commitment from the players and the team, like 2 first-round picks last year, and we're not sure when we're going to see them either. At least one is intriguing, but he still probably has one more year of juniors before we're talking pro league. And he's probably one of the best prospects in their system right now, and he's still about 2 years out.
Gotcha. Any of the other draft picks stick out to you? Or what do you think of the other round guys, the later round guys?
Torrey Pittner was one of their late round guys, like the third to last, and he's the other DU kid.
Okay.
He is so smart, the way that he carried himself. I'm not going to be the one to say it. It was AJ who said shades of Devon Toews in the way that he processes the game and the way that he's able to talk about it. This is such a smart hockey player. And with his path bringing him to DU, he is somebody that we're going to be able to keep eyes on just down the road at Magnus Arena for a couple years to come.
So they picked 2 DU guys. Is that like coincidence, or is it like not a coincidence that they picked 2 guys from down the street?
I don't think it's a coincidence. There's a couple reasons for it. They just won 2 national titles back to back, so the program is having success.
With good players,
100%. But there is a marriage between these 2 teams too. They had a prospect in Sean Behrens who is in the Avs system and is about to graduate to the next level, already dipped his toes in some pro games, and his development path brought him to his junior year, so he was able to spend a good amount of time developing, and I think that built trust in the Avs being able to see his individual improvement from freshman year to junior year, that this is a good program that's capable of handling our players with care and getting them ready for the next level, and you can't beat the success that the program is having. And I also believe there's a shared value system. I think the type of player that commits to DU and is drawn to that program shares similar values with the type of player that the Avs would be interested in.
That's cool. Yeah, that's interesting. 7 rounds, though.
It starts, day 2 starts to fly to...
Is just day 1 round 1?
Yeah.
Okay. So you do the first... It's kind of like the NHL draft. Okay. And then... Yeah, it's so long... Is this 2 days or 3 days?
2 days.
2 days. Okay. So round 1 on the first day, and then the rest of the draft the next day. Were you ready to go home by round 7?
I was. I'm trying to think what the... Oh my gosh. So we actually went straight to the airport from the draft. And
Really?
we ended up running into some flight trouble.
That's a mild
I can
way
see
to
that-
put it.
I want to get
I can
to
see
that
the
as
trauma
well.
in Cale's eyes as
That's a
I
mild way
say
to put
it. And so I do
Some flight trouble.
I'm hungover from Vegas, but not for fun reasons. The travel and the chaos of it all bleeding into dev camp, which started at 8 a.m. this morning, Free agency opened on Monday also, and everything started earlier. It was supposed to start at like 10 a.m. our time, and they were making announcements at 8 a.m. So it's been nonstop ever since hockey stuff is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you caught up on sleep like at all?
No.
I haven't.
No.
Because it's same as NHL, NBA free agency started the next day. So
Right.
like, we all just like, I got home at 4 a.m. and worked the whole next day. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a little bit about the flight trouble. Let me hit a break and then I'll ask you about that. Guys, we got a lot of events going on here at DNVR this summer. Let me shout out a couple of them. We got a DNVR Rockies takeover July 20th. That's coming up against the Giants. Join Susie Hunter and DNVR Rockies for a takeover against the San Francisco Giants July 20th. Party bus ride from the DNVR bar to Coors Field. Free Breck brews on the bus. Rockies game ticket. Party bus ride back to DNVR for a free drink after the game. Rapids takeover. That's coming up on July 7th. That's this weekend. We're partnering with supporter group Centennial 38, C38 to bring you one of the best game day parties in town. Takeover package includes a party bus ride from the DNVR bar to Dick's Sporting Goods Park and back, free brews on the bus, Rapids match ticket, and entrance to the C38 tailgate with unlimited food and all you can drink beers from a local brewery. So got tons of other events going on as well. Our next golf tournament, Kickoff Classic, August 16th at Legacy Ridge Golf Club in Westminster. Go to thednvr.com. Our events tab on there has all you need to know about that and ways to sign up for all the events we have this summer. They're always a fun time, so check it out. Also, check out Toyota. We're here in the Toyota Lounge. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR, of course. And check out all your Front Range Toyota stores. Trucks, they've always been a part of Toyota's DNA. They are known for their trucks. You can check out the Tacoma, of course, 2024 Tacoma, the all-new 2024 Tacoma. Also check out the iconic 2024 Land Cruiser. Toyota also offers 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the Epic 4Runner. Toyota also offers more low and zero-emission vehicles combined than any other automaker to give customers numerous choices to reduce their carbon footprint. They've got 16 different hybrid vehicles to choose from, like the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck. They also got SUVs, of course, the 4Runner, the RAV4, the Grand Highlander. Make sure to visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial. Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East, and Aurora Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. All right, back here on TDSP, I got Meghan Angley hanging out with me. So you guys had a great time in Vegas. Draft, big success. The Sphere was cool, looked amazing. And then you ran into some flight trouble on the way back.
What
happened?
This is a funny story.
I want to hear it.
We already knew it was delayed the morning of day 2. We had gotten notice that it was going to be boarding a little later. So
wait, like more than 24 hours in advance?
It was day of. I forget, how many hours.
So you were flying out that night after day 2?
It was like during the 7th round, we got an email.
Yeah,
okay.
like 11:30 a.m.
Yeah, so towards the end of the morning, we're supposed to fly out. We're supposed to board at, I think, 4:15.
Yeah.
And that got pushed back 2 hours.
This is like when we were in Serbia and the night before our flights, we just got a text that they were canceled.
Oh, that's actually worse.
Just canceled.
There was leaving Serbia, there was a workers' strike at the Belgrade airport.
Oh.
And so they canceled like a day's worth of flights, just like across the
just
whole
canceled.
airport.
Yeah. Not rescheduled, not delayed, just canceled.
Just canceled.
Yeah, straight canceled. Okay, so you guys were delayed.
And it was a staffing thing. It was like, we have your flight, but we don't have your crew.
Gotcha.
So we get there and we just waited out until we hoped we would board, and we do board. And we get on the plane and we're entirely seated.
Just the regular 2-hour delay?
The regular 2-hour delay.
It was like a half hour after we were supposed to board, but like
You're
it
right.
was theoretically the correct
Right.
time.
Still
and
in the window where it was probably about correct.
You're right, because I remember feeling frustration, like we already waited because of the delay, and there was a little delay on top of it.
And they were like checking the size of people's personal items as they were lining up, and like
That's never good.
trying to force people to pay more. It was, all
Wait, what
all that
airline
stuff.
were you guys on?
Frontier.
Oh,
Frontier.
Well, there you go. Okay, so you get on the plane. Then what happens?
They make an announcement that the plane was airworthy when it arrived, but it would not be airworthy when we got to Denver. And we will not be able to fly out on this plane, and we have to move to a different one. And it sounded urgent, like we needed to urgently go to the other plane as if it was going to be leaving soon. And it's in a different terminal, so we get very clear instruction on what train we need to take to get to this new terminal to get to our new plane.
Yeah, if you don't know, the Vegas airport has basically two airports.
It has the brand new terminal and the
which is
old
where we were at,
terminal.
and the old one. So we had to move terminals.
Wait. The plane wasn't airworthy? What?
Here's the craziest part about it. They said it would be airworthy for us to take off, but by the time we got to Denver, it would no longer be considered airworthy.
Like it would fall apart in the air.
That's what was unclear.
I don't know how that works, but that's what they told us.
It was not airworthy. I've never heard that before.
Is it groundworthy? What's the top speed on this thing?
Okay, so you have to deplane. That's never good. And go to a different terminal.
Yeah.
I'm sure AJ was just thrilled about this.
No, nobody was. And there was almost all Avs media actually was on this flight.
Right.
It was a little bit of a round table, but no one handled it super well. We get to the new gate. It's for
Who
a different
handled it the worst?
destination. I can't throw him under the bus.
Cale?
No, it wasn't Cale. It was nobody at DNVR.
No, I was saying Cale should throw somebody under the bus. No, not even at DNVR.
And it wasn't. We handled it gracefully.
There was,
I'm sure you did.
Here's what I will say. It wasn't anyone there was a couple behind me that was they had just gotten married and were going to visit one of their families for the first time after the wedding. And it was like a big deal. But it wasn't in Denver. They were flying all the way to Tampa. And
so probably
they
messed up their Tampa
they missed
flight.
their connection.
That's rough.
And then Frontier canceled their connecting flight.
Nice.
So they got to so it was like they had to book a flight on a different airline, but they couldn't get out of Vegas. So they took the plane with us to Denver, and then first thing in the morning bought a different plane ticket on a different airline to finally get to Tampa.
That's rough.
And they were obviously not happy. For sure. Not happy.
Was this a pickle couple or a different couple?
This was a different couple.
Okay.
I also had I sat next to they were just snacking on pickles on an airplane.
It cracked me up.
Airplane.
I knew exactly who you were talking about because they had that vibe about them. When you described this couple, I knew exactly who you were talking about.
Just snacking on.
So it was actually the most deranged
pickles.
behavior I've ever seen on a plane. They were sharing AirPods. They were watching a horror movie on a single phone with a completely smashed screen. Just completely smashed, snacking on a bag of loose dill pickles.
I don't mean to sound like bougie, but this is Frontier behavior. That's Frontier Airlines.
Well,
behavior.
you know what? Some guy showed up with a pound of chicken wings in a styrofoam box.
Yeah, also
Who was
Frontier.
that? Who would have done that?
Yeah, he started asking people if they wanted any tendies and whipping them out of his pockets.
I did do that.
Okay, so
Sorry,
that was the plane you had to get off of.
Yeah.
It was not airworthy.
Not airworthy. Get to the new gate. It's for a completely different destination because we're not actually getting on our plane until several hours later. So
how long of a delay was it once you had to get to the new terminal?
It was 4 hours. I don't know. We
yeah,
finally
4 hours.
4 additional hours. But keep in mind,
once we finally got on the new plane, for whatever reason, we sat on the tarmac for 45 or 50 minutes, just a long time.
Wow. And you were in the old terminal now too.
Yeah.
The new terminal in Vegas is so nice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Because I was always used to the old one, and you go in the new one, and you're like, holy shit, this is like a mall.
This is how they're living.
Yeah. Okay, that's rough. So then you're sitting on the tarmac for another delay.
We finally get there, and I think the overall delay total was, 6 hours? 7 hours?
Jeez.
All I know is I pulled into my driveway at like 3:45 a.m.
Well, because we land, and we don't have anywhere to unload. So we just sit on the taxiway, and people are getting impatient.
Another staffing issue, potentially.
Yeah, like a 40-minute delay once we got to Denver, and people are starting to get up. They need to go to the bathroom, and they got over the intercom real sassy, like, this is an active taxiway. You need to stay seated with your seatbelts buckled. And I just didn't think it was very active because we weren't moving.
Yeah. Pretty not active.
Pretty not active. But you know what? Our bags were all there.
Everybody got their bags. There was one guy when they said that who was walking to the bathroom as they got on the intercom to I don't remember what he shouted, but he shouted some profanity. Just like,
oh my God.
I've never been on a plane where they clapped to take off before.
Oh God, that's bad. That's so bad. That's so bad.
It was funny.
It was funny. Yeah. The guy next to me fell asleep on Eric. We were in the same row, and he fell asleep on Eric. So he had a good seatmate.
Is Eric in the middle?
No, this other guy was in the middle.
This guy was in the middle?
Flopping onto him. He just has that face.
God.
It's a very safe space.
Eric, yeah. I feel like he's the guy you could fall asleep
on. Eric.
Yeah. Yeah. I could fall asleep on his shoulder. Okay, well, glad you guys made it back.
Me too.
Well, what were some of the other highlights from the weekend in Vegas?
Okay, this isn't very funny or Avs related, but there was a trade, and we can use the trade graphic. I don't know if we had a chance to show it yet.
So this is what happened when there was a trade at the Sphere. If you could put the sound on for this one.
It's important for this story.
Cale, that'd be great. Because if I saw this and I was sitting in front of this 1,000-foot screen,
it's terrifying.
I would have been a little scared.
Even the announcer was rattled.
Boom. With the horn and everything.
This puck is like 6 stories tall. It's horrifying.
Like that. You gotta think the graphics people who do the Sphere production were so hyped when they came up with that.
No, I know. I don't know if they really tested it for size, and they probably just didn't realize it did not need to be that big.
So
I got a text from RG that said I literally just almost had a heart attack because of the trade graphic. He was startled.
There was PTSD by the end of it, because at the end of the draft, after the final pick, a horn sounded. We were like, oh God, not another one. We were so over it.
By that time, 7th round, everybody's falling asleep
again. Yeah,
there was an inordinate amount of trades in the first round this year.
Right, so you saw that graphic a lot.
Man. Which is a great segue, because there was a big trade in the middle of the draft.
Yeah,
the Vegas Golden Knights traded their goaltender to the Washington Capitals, and he was in the building to do an autograph signing.
Okay.
As a Vegas Golden Knights player. And because it's local to Vegas, all these Knights fans had shown up to get their jerseys signed by Logan Thompson, and he just got traded.
Wow.
And so he was a good sport about it, and he went up and did the full signing and talked to everyone and joked about people needing new jerseys, but it was insane timing to have this poor guy in the building.
So when a guy gets traded, or there's a trade in draft picks during the NHL draft, and say the Avs, they traded back into the 2nd round, so that was originally somebody else's pick. When that guy gets drafted, he's obviously putting on an Avs jersey.
Yes.
In the NBA, for some reason, they make them put on the hat of the team that has the pick, because it's not, quote, official yet.
That's so weird.
Yeah. And so, in the NBA draft, a lot of the guys the Nuggets drafted, I think the guy the Nuggets drafted this year, because they traded up, in his draft day photos, he's wearing a hat of another team, even though the Nuggets drafted him.
This feels like an easily fixable thing that they don't need to be doing.
It's the easiest thing to fix. I'm glad the NHL has that figured out, though.
It was exciting too because there was a DU kid, and there's obviously a few DU kids, but there was a highly touted DU kid in this draft, and he went a little later than anyone expected, and a team actually traded up just to be able to get him, and I thought that was a high honor. So like Philadelphia had the pick, Minnesota swoops in, trades up one more so that they can get this kid and bring him over to Minnesota. Philadelphia agreed to it, so he ended up a Minnesota Wild player and gets to at least wear the honor of knowing a team desperately traded just to get him. And I think that was a pretty cool moment for him too.
Do you think DU had the most players selected from the college?
Eric pointed out to me that BU had more representation to include the first overall pick. So BU was very well represented in this draft. DU was right behind them though.
Gotcha.
I think those were two of the programs with some of the most kids.
Gotcha. Cale, any other stories from Vegas that we should bring up?
No, but I am very excited to be back at Circa with the NBA crew in a couple weeks.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Everything in the summer just happens in Vegas.
Before I took this job, I had never been to Vegas. In the last 3 years, I've been to Vegas 7 times.
Yeah.
So, like, we're 6 times? I don't know. I lost count. But, like, everything's in Vegas now.
Yeah, we'll be back there for Summer League.
Where is Summer League happening?
Well, Vegas. And then, so it's at UNLV.
Oh, okay. It's on the campus?
In their arena, like the Thomas and Mack Center where UNLV plays. They have a main arena there and then a smaller gym where they play games as well. But yeah, it's at UNLV.
How close is that to, like, Strip and stuff?
It's close to the Strip.
It's not close
far
to
from
Circa. Okay.
Because Circa's way up there. So it's probably like a 15-minute ride from Circa, 5-minute ride from the Strip. It's definitely more convenient if you're on the Strip. But.
Is Summer League like elevated dev camp? I have to imagine it is actually in thinking about it because there's real game action that happens between prospects.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can glean a little more from what you're seeing.
Like,
we were at the rookie face-off last year. It's like basically if you combined Dev Camp and the rookie face-off into one event and then made it a giant show like the NBA likes to do, that's kind of what Summer League is.
Yeah. Okay.
Summer League is also where just everybody comes together and, like, you know, every coach is there, even though they're not coaching the Summer League team. Every GM, every owner, and then players that aren't on the Summer League team, because Summer League is just really your rookies and like the guys you just drafted and, you know, some other guys you pick up that aren't good, but you're just doing favors for their agents. But you have the games as like the front of it, but the games just really masquerade what kind of goes on behind the scenes, and behind the scenes is all like, you know, the meetings and the hangouts and going to get drinks with people. Like, that's what Summer League is really about.
Yeah, it's the only time the entire year that, like, the entire NBA world, media,
the entire
organizations,
NBA
all that,
goes to Vegas for.
Like, the entire NBA world ends up in one place for 5 days.
And it's at the Cosmo and the Aria.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's cool, though. It's fun.
Yeah.
So it's really great for networking.
Oh,
probably.
for sure.
It's honestly probably more important for networking than it is.
No, that's what I'm saying. The
games.
games at Summer League are really just like a front for what goes on behind the scenes.
Have you ever gotten something really useful in watching a player there that like translated to what their trajectory held, or is it not even the best sample size of what you can expect out of a player?
Yes and no. Like, Jokic famously had a really dominant summer league, and like that translated obviously. But sometimes guys have amazing summer leagues and are complete busts.
Yeah,
so you never know.
It's like if like a first round pick has a really bad summer league, it's something, but not really anything that big. If a guy that's in his second year is coming back for like his second summer league has a bad summer league, that's really concerning. But it's honestly more about guys that surprise.
Yeah.
I feel like first round picks usually go and you do their thing. It's more about like the guys who, like a second round guy or an undrafted guy that really pop, and then like they become a storyline. Especially for like the Nuggets.
For the Nuggets and a lot of the other smaller, right? It's a great opportunity for guys who are borderline league players, like might be in the NBA, might not, to like actually have a chance to earn a roster spot. That's mostly what it's for.
Yeah. But Summer League is going to be absolute bananas this year. I'm actually kind of not looking forward to it.
Why? Because it's so accessible to a lot more media?
Well, not for that. The reason is every fan that goes to Summer League, like, it's the true diehards. It's the true sickos that go to Summer League and watch those games. Like, because usually you know, like, one or two players on the team if you're just a casual fan, like whoever they took in the first round over the last 2 years. But 90% of the fans there are Laker fans because it's close to LA.
Yeah.
A lot of people just make the 3-hour drive. And like if you're in Vegas, there's no NBA teams, so you're probably just a Lakers fan. They're the closest team. And this year, the Lakers have LeBron's son on their team. And so that means that LeBron is definitely going to be courtside at all the games.
Oh, man.
It's going to be an absolute madhouse, an absolute circus. The games are going to be absolutely packed, like when the Lakers are playing. And also the tickets are just kind of like, a lot of them are general admission. So people get there early to get a good spot. If you're a fan for like, and the Lakers don't play until the like marquee game at night. So it's just going to be a whole circus around the Lakers. I'm not looking forward to that.
Interesting. It seems like NBA has that kind of buzz on it often enough. Like, do you think it affects the players at all, or are they pretty used to being in proximity to that?
They're kind of used to it. I don't feel like it affects the players that much because especially a guy like Bronny James, LeBron's kid, he's been in the spotlight his entire life. And a lot of these guys that come up, they've been in the spotlight their entire lives. So I don't think it fazed them that much. But it's going to be really annoying for sure. I'm not looking forward to just every Lakers fan in the world being there. And just that's going to be the biggest storyline, I feel like. Whatever happens with Bronny James.
On the Nuggets side should be the storyline that might have some of the spotlight taken from them.
For the Nuggets, it's their first round pick, Deron Holmes, the guy they took at 22. And then they have a couple guys who played last year who are second-year players, like a Julian Strother, who could play real minutes for the Nuggets this year.
That's what I wanted to ask, what the graduation is like from G League to NBA, how much time it takes.
Yeah. I mean, usually to play minutes on a good team like the Nuggets, you got to be at least in your, third year usually. The Nuggets are trying to do something a little different where they're trying to play young guys.
Okay.
So they actually play more young guys than a lot of contenders do.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising.
Yeah. So this is actually going to be a somewhat important summer league because they kind of need Julian Strother to play well. Because if he plays well, you're like, oh, I'm kind of encouraged about him playing actual minutes for the Nuggets.
That's interesting. Like in hockey, that type of player is encouraged not only because of the skill upside that they should hopefully provide, but the affordability that whatever contract they're on allows under the cap. Does that exist in the NBA too? Is it a similar, like, does it help with cap constraints to have those young players graduate and fill roster holes?
Yes, because when you're drafted in the NBA in the first round, your contract is set for 4 years. So you're on a set scale.
But the contracts start immediately in the NBA. So it's not like the NHL where like you can draft a guy, he goes to college for a couple years.
Sign the ELC.
And then you wait to sign the ELC till they've developed.
And they're locked in then.
As soon as they sign their contract, that clock starts in the NBA.
And so even if you get drafted and you go to the G League for the year, you're still on the NBA contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it might not help a ton.
I feel like hockey contracts got to be really complex.
They're interesting. I'm sure it's the same for NBA, but there's a lot of two-way contracts, and so they get certain pay for NHL time versus American League time.
Yeah, NBA has that too.
But some of those American League contracts, in contrast to the NHL money, are kind of shocking. I mean, they're still really good money, but it's interesting the
NBA
disparity.
The disparity between the G League pay and the Real League pay in the NBA is probably even crazier.
I think in the G League you make like $50,000, maybe.
Yeah,
no way.
It's crazy.
And that doesn't feel livable.
Even if you,
it's not.
Even if you like play one NBA game, you end up getting the NBA minimum rookie salary for that year.
Yeah.
Which is like $700K.
Right.
So
and
like the
get
difference
prorated.
is like shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, but the G League, you make no money. Like the NBA funds the G League and they barely fund it.
That's a little scary.
And you're making like $50,000 a year and living in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, I'm sure there's.
I mean, shout out Grand Rapids. That's a good G League city compared to a lot of the G League cities out there, like Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah.
Or Sioux Falls.
You're lucky if you end up in Des Moines.
Yeah. Or
Like
Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids
Yeah.
is a great landing spot. Yeah. So it's a rough life in the G League. It's a rough life. All right. Well, that's good for the NHL draft. You doing anything for the 4th?
I am going down to Colorado Springs to catch a Rocky Mountain Vibes baseball game.
There you go.
They're going to be doing a fireworks show, and I figured it'd be easier to get tickets for that than the Coors show that they do with the Rockies. So I'll be spending that with my parents. What about you? I know you said it sounded pretty laid back.
Yeah, I have a 3-week-old, so we're just chilling.
Are you nervous about the fireworks disturbing?
I don't think we'll hear a lot where we are.
Okay.
We're like I-25 in Bellevue, so I feel like
I used to live around there.
Yeah. So I don't
Good
think we're
area.
gonna get any loud fireworks there. Hopefully not. But yeah, we'll just be chilling. You're going to see a Vibes game? I totally forgot that's an actual name of a team.
It's kind of an unreal environment. I've only been to one, but you get to sit up really really and it's really
Is this AAA
affordable.
baseball?
Yeah, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah. Formerly the Sky Sox, to those who were more familiar
Yeah.
when they were the Sky Sox. Yeah, I liked when they were a feeder to the Rockies, like way down the line. That was cool to have it homegrown, but it's a cool little product that they're working on down there, and good fireworks still.
Yeah. Steve G asks, any updates on Nichushkin and Landeskog? I'm sure you have never had this question asked before.
I don't blame people for wanting to know, and there aren't any new updates. It's everything that we already know to be true. They're still getting some clarity on the Landeskog situation, and Nichushkin is the kind of thing we won't really know more until November.
He's not going to be back. Come on.
I don't think he's going to play for the Avs again.
Yeah.
But their options in what they can do with him in that contract, I think, are limited.
Right.
And I think it's going to come down to
You can't just
the reinstatement into the league time frame before they're able to really do anything.
Yeah.
I expect Landeskog to play it next season, though. I'm not counting on it at the start of the year next year, but that feels like where the optimism has been placed with Landeskog. And then, from there, it's a matter of how he looks and how he feels, and that could be a gamble. But I do expect the attempt to happen next year.
Well, that'd be great. That'd be great. If that
I'm
happens.
excited for it, and it'll hopefully provide a little more clarity to that forward group, too, because they're looking a little funky right now up top. It's encouraging, but like a little funky, so.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you last thing here. Like, what's your current read on the Avs heading into next season? Like, do they have a squad that's like surefire Stanley Cup contender? Have they dropped off a little? What's your current read on them? Obviously, some stuff will change with the roster, but
that's what makes it tricky to say, because I think if you look at training camp last year roster compared to what it looks to be right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of change. Yeah.
It looks better last year than it did this year, but there were also things that were supposed to pan out last year that didn't, like Tomas Tatar. So I expect some kind of new addition like that is just a high value, low risk option that Chris McFarland's going to find late this summer that's going to kind of really round out the rest of this roster, because the additions they've made to the bottom of the D-core, it's pretty backlogged there in the best way. There's going to be a lot of internal competition there, and then the guys headlining the D-core and Cale Makar and Devon Taves are as good as ever.
Right.
Even Cale Makar on a down year.
Yeah.
I think Nathan MacKinnon in what appears to be the prime, and there is just no ceiling for what he's capable of, also bodes well for him. And Mikko Rantanen, another 100-point, 50-goal, 40-goal season this last year. So he continues to be such a huge producer for them. Their core's intact.
Yep.
So I still feel really good about the playoff odds, as far as what is going to get them to a cup final, there's still some things that need to be answered to get them as far as that. But I have no worries about the playoffs and building a good team that's built for them. I think they just will need to fill in some more holes along the way. Some of that could come about in season or around the deadline. But because of the core they have, they're still in such a good place.
All right. Love that. All right. Let's head into the July 4th weekend. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us, hanging out in the chat. Throw us a quick like before you get out of here. And yeah, Megan, thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
That was fun. Guys, enjoy the holiday weekend. We'll be back next week with another guest on TDSP.
We all silly like the mayor.